Welcome back to my channel. I'm Brian, and today we're going to review the MagSquare 165 by MagSwitch. Okay, so this is a handy little contraption you can buy these days. It is you can turn on or off a magnetic clamp. They're primarily used for in steel fabrication to hold parts together as you fit them, tack them together. So I bought two of these, I'd say probably 8 months ago, and I've been using them quite often in the shop, mostly for fitting in welding, but I've also found some other interesting accessories that I've been building for them. So today I want to talk about this as a review, what I think about it, how it performs, in my opinion, and also I want to show you the accessories that I've built for this little thing. Okay, so before we move on, let me say one thing, that this is not sponsored in any way by MagSwitch or anybody. I bought these myself at the local welding supply store. I paid $44.80 each, not including tax. You can actually purchase them on Amazon for 43 bucks. That's the best price I've found so far. That's Amazon Prime, so free shipping. So check that out. If you do want to buy one, I would appreciate it if you use the, I have a link down in the description box. If you click that link and you purchase one of these, I will get a small sales referral fee. It doesn't increase the cost to you in any way, and it helps my channel out, so I'd appreciate that. Okay, so first we're going to talk about my thoughts on this, and then I'm going to show you the accessories. So we're going to have two parts here. Okay, part one, it does what it's supposed to do. This thing here is machined perfectly square, all these sides and the bottom. It also has a couple of little V notches here on both sides so that you can help fit, pipe or tube or round stock, to other items. So you can basically clamp this down to you have to have a steel work table, guys, unless you're just clamping two steel parts together. You can also use this to put these on your table. They'll stay fixed, and then you can clamp the parts to them, because all these shiny metal surfaces are magnetic, all 5 of these sides. Now this is the primary strength side right here. This is the primary side. Okay, this is the strongest pull, but these are pretty strong. Well, let me tell you, they hold things together just fine. Another cool feature that I like about this is they give you these tapped holes in the sides. These tapped holes on both of these longer sides they're actually M8 screws, but a 1032 American screw thread will fit in here just fine. They actually happen to be the same. And the ones on the ends are at M3 screw. Okay, and that is damn handy. I haven't used those yet, but you can use those. You can make fixtures. You can clamp this, or you can screw this to something. Like if you wanted to make your own custom framing square, you could screw these to a framing square and hold parts, further apart. So that's really nice to have these screw holes. That's a bonus. So let's talk about how it functions. It's quite simple. You have this little handle. You push in. You have to push it in and turn it, and it'll either turn on or off. Okay, right now it is off. Turn this handle, and that'll come on, and that'll hold your magnet. Pretty cool, huh? Let's go over a couple things they talk about in the instructions. One, they do give you a spec sheet with all the dimensions for the different models they have. This is the 165. That's the smallest they offer. It's supposed to be able to hold, it's unclear in the instructions, it's either 150 pounds or 165 pounds. We'll talk more about that later. But they also have a model 400, a model 600, and a model 1000 that actually is supposed to be able to hold 1,000 pounds. That's a beast, huh? So anyway, they give you the dimensions if you needed them, for these holes, if you want those for some reason. All right, let's talk about some of the general instructions that come with it. First thing they tell you is that this is intended for, when you're using it in metal fabrication, is for tack welding only. They do not want you to weld within 3 inches of this. They actually recommend you keep it approximately 3 inches away from where you're tack welding. And the reason for that is twofold. The magnetic field from this actually disrupts your welding arc, okay? I mean, it makes your arc get a little bit unstable. And that's fine for tacking, and that's what it's intended for, so that works great. But you're not supposed to weld for two reasons. It'll disrupt your arc, which won't give you a good quality weld. And two, this is not supposed to be exposed to high temperatures. If you get over 180 degrees, you can damage the magnets in here. And that's just the way magnets work. As they get hot, they lose their magnetism. And apparently these can permanently lose their magnetism. So definitely keep this away from where you're welding. And it's recommended to keep it 3 inches away from where you tack. Okay, another thing, they actually tell you straight up here that this is not to be used for lifting, in particular overhead lifting. I mean, that's common sense though too, right? I don't know what you're gonna lift overhead with this anyway, but don't do it. They tell you you can't trust it for that. They tell you not to apply sudden jerking forces to it, or you can break the magnet off of the metal. They also tell you that this could possibly disrupt electronic devices. Certainly don't run this over your credit card or your debit card. You might want to keep it not too close to your cell phone or any kind of electronic computerized device. I can tell you that I've made a camera mount for this so I can attach my camera to metal surfaces, and my camera is probably about 4 or 5 inches away from this, and I've had no problems, in particular the GoPro. So that's one thing they tell you as well. So safety on something like this, I got to tell you guys, keep this out of the hands of small children. And the reason for that is that when you turn this on, let me demonstrate. That pulls something to it rather quickly. I mean, and that clamping force is pretty strong. And there's sharp corners on here. A small child playing with this could actually hurt themselves. Pinch their finger. You can actually draw blood, getting your finger pinched in there. So keep it away from children. All right, so let's talk about what its primary function. I'll show you some footage of me using it on the steel table. It works better than expected. It is fabulous. I mean, it holds things together, perfectly square. It holds down to the table, keeps things from moving and shifting. It does 100% what it's supposed to do. And with a couple accessories you can build, you can even make it a little bit more useful. We'll get into that. So for its primary function, I recommend it. How about the holding force? I'll show you some footage of me testing it. I actually hoisted some water jugs up. I carefully weighed them, and I found that their claim of doing 150 or 165 pounds that this would hold, it don't do it. It's not up to snuff there, guys. That's the ugly truth. You can see in the footage that I'm probably rolling right now that at the best, I got this thing to hold 112 pounds. It was somewhere in the neighborhood of between 110, 112 pounds that this would pull off. And it wasn't a laboratory test, like I'm sure it's rated for 150 pounds in, a laboratory environment. But, I stuck it to the forks of my tractor, and I tried very carefully to keep it level so that the forces were all applied directly down. And I tried to keep the forces central right off this handle. Again, not laboratory conditions, but the best I could do. And I found that it didn't live up to the 150-pound claim. So, but if you're not supposed to live with it, I don't know how much that really plays into the equation, because it definitely holds the steel parts on your table. Now let's talk about some of the accessories that I've made for it in my shop. First one I've already kind of shown you is this here camera mount. I just got a piece of, I bent a piece of 1/4-inch steel stock and screwed this here articulating arm to it that's made for, for cameras. This one here actually holds my iPhone or any smartphone. I usually use this with a GoPro because if I will go out and stick this on the forks of my tractor, or I'll put it on my side-by-sides roll cage, and I can take some footage of me driving or moving something around. And it's great for that. I mean, I can move it anywhere. I mean, my tractor is 100% steel, you know. Works really good for that. But I actually use the GoPro attachment for that. I can't show you that right now because it's up there on my camera. But because the GoPro has image stabilization built into it, so you don't get shaky footage. All right, next accessory. Might as well use this one. Okay, so I'm going to show you footage of me using this as a stop on the table saw. Okay, you can clamp this down to the surface of any cast iron table, whether it's your drill press, your bandsaw, your table saw, and you can use it as a bump stop when you're making cuts with either a sled or your miter gauge. You know, you bump your material into it, you know, you clamp it down where you want it, and then you can run past it and cut away from the blade so you don't have any pinch point. Works really good for that. I took it another step further. I made this little tiny contraption. It's just a coupling nut, some threaded rod, a ball, and a wing nut. And, you know, I can actually clamp this down to my table saw table. I can swing this up and down a little bit to accommodate the height of material, and I can bump my material up to this, and then, you know, if I need to make it a little longer, a little shorter, I can just turn this a little bit and dial it in, you know, make fine adjustment. And then, of course, you can lock it down with this here wing nut. This is pretty handy here, and they actually make, you can buy magnetic bases for dial indicators, but if you don't already have one and you have a MagSquare, well, you know, more's the better. So you can actually clamp this down on any machine, you know, the surface of your table saw, you know, check your blade run out, see if it's, you know, perfectly straight up and down, or if your fence is off. You can clamp it to a milling machine, a lathe. Again, those all have a lot of steel surfaces on them, so you shouldn't have any lack of places to stick this. And you may notice that, you know, this is a piece of steel angle iron with a cut off piece of bolt bolted right through there. So the magnet force actually holds both of these at the same time, down to the table or the column, and it also holds this in position as well. Here's one I dig right here. I don't know if you often use third hands. I use them quite a lot when I'm soldering, you know, holding wires together. Just about anything you want to, you know, keep things aligned while you're doing some work on it. I usually set a piece of steel sheet down on my table when I'm soldering or something anyway, so this will stick down to my table and it'll hold the third hand, and you can, you know, do your business. Here's one that's pretty cool. This I primarily use on my CNC machine. I clamp this to the spindle, and I use a blast of compressed air. I connect a, you know, quick fitting here, and I have a valve to turn it on and off, and I will blow compressed air on the bit to either clear chips or cool the bit. Sometimes both at the same time. And this is quite simple. It's just some plumbing work, you know, some fittings. This is just a 3/8 steel T, and I welded a piece of flat stock to it, and that way I can clamp that to my spindle of my CNC. But it also, I found out that I didn't have to do anything to this. I already had it. You know, I can just put this on my drill press and I can mount this to the column vertically, or I can mount it to the table, and I can direct a jet of, you know, air on my bit. I mean, you could also use this for coolant. You know, these are also used for coolant if you needed to do that as well. You just have to do a little different plumbing. What's next up? Oh, also say this is primarily for my drill press I made. What this does is this holds the nozzle of my shop vac. This PVC fitting, it slides right in there. And I can also clamp this down to my drill press table, or also to the column. It doesn't hold quite so good in the column because this magnet is a little small, but it does work, especially if you support the hose out here a little bit. I haven't had it fall off yet, but it gets a little wonky once in a while. But I just whipped this up myself. I mean, it's like my own articulated arm I made from some wood balls and scrap wood, PVC fittings, bolt, again, piece of angle iron. you know, just a couple bucks, if anything, you know, in hardware and fittings. Very useful, actually. I use it especially if I'm using Forstner bits on the drill press, you know, especially with MDF. I like to suck up that dust instead of getting it all over the place. Works pretty good. I may make a video on building these here if anyone's actually interested, but that's another useful feature. Oh, how about this one? Right here, okay? I made my own little, you know, floor sweeper for picking up metal shavings on the floor. Pretty simple, just some bent 1/8 by 1 flat bar, a couple of casters I had left over, and a piece of conduit that I had laying around. It was actually the right length. Just welded things together, bends, drilled the holes, and the way I use this is, here, I don't want to pinch my fingers. You know, I just turn these on, stick them to the base, and then you kind of run this over the floor, and all your drill press shavings or metal chips will stick to this. And then whenever, you know, you want to dispose of them, you carry it over to the trash can and you undo the magnets. And voila, they all fall into the trash can. So you can buy these at Harbor Freight, you know, a real floor sweeper. I mean, they're like 35 bucks. But, you know, if you already got these, you know, and you don't mind whipping something like this up, you can save yourself a few bucks. I use this in the shop. You can tell I don't have like rough terrain wheels on this. I don't use this outside for picking up nails off the ground or nothing. But you could easily do that. You could put a different kind of wheel on there. But this works pretty good for me. And that's it, guys. I hope this video has helped you. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give me a big thumbs up and leave your comments, feedback down below. If you're new here and you enjoyed this video, maybe hit that subscribe button. Peace.